Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have got, as always, a ton of stuff for you to save you hours of doom scrolling, but keeping you up to date and giving the insight behind all of these stories so you can do the necessary pushback when you need to and talking to your friends and colleagues. And so tune in today. We're going to be talking about the ongoing arsonists burning down the forests, and we're talking about Trump hiding in the catering truck. Very disturbing stories coming out of the trial of the mom who killed her three kids, and separatism in the province of Quebec, Canada, coming up to the fore. Let's jump right in. You know that I've been talking for a while now about the fact that, contrary to what environmentalists are saying, and contrary to what, for instance, Prime Minister Carney in Canada is saying, most forest fires, the majority, are not started by climate change. They are human started, and most of those are by arsonists. Another example yet today. We talked yesterday about someone who was just charged, and this is in the central Okanagan, where the fires are raging and burning. Another individual was caught and charged yesterday for trying to burn a mountain down, basically, right in the middle of Kelowna last year. And now, just yesterday, in Salmon Arm, which is not far, about 40 or so, 50K from, a little more than that, maybe 60K from Kelowna, which is in the center part of the central Okanagan, which is in the center of British Columbia, where the fires are raging. A woman arrested. She was seen. She was chased down. She was caught starting fires. Trying to start a forest fire. Thankfully, she was seen and spotted. People rushed to the scene and were able to control the blaze before it took off and really would have had a devastating effect in that township right now. Charges are pending. So more cases. And again, Canada's national newscaster, which is so stuck on just the message of the hyper far left environmentalists, they can't even report. They won't even report on these stories that are happening right here, right where the fires are. Arsonists being caught cold-handed, hot-handed, I guess, and national media outlets refusing to even say that. Well, okay, I wanted to get that right at the top because that's a huge story right here. And then there's the issue of it's going around the news and mainly in the U.S. But we talked about it, hinted on this a few days ago. President Donald Trump, when he departed from Turkey last week, indeed, it has been confirmed, as we've been saying, he was hidden in a catering truck, a food catering truck, which was going from one aircraft to another. So he got up took the stairway up, waved from the door of Air Force One, as he always does, went in, and then, unbeknown to anybody, on the food truck, the catering truck, which was loading on the other side of the plane, he hopped in there and nobody saw him, and they were lowered down, and he drove to another plane. The threats against him were so given such credibility in terms of that plane being shot down that he did that. Guaranteed lots of jokes coming out about that, but it raises the absolute serious nature of terrorism and the Iranian regime. Again, more Houthi missiles striking targets in the Strait of Hormuz. And again, you would think this would mean that stock markets generally would be going down. But remember, when we give you the average of a stock market, let's say the Standard and Poor's market index in the United States, or what's called stocks, that's not my name, STOXS in Europe, or maybe a market in Japan, what you get is the average of a certain number of companies, the same companies, the average in a particular day. And stocks are being driven, they're soft in many of the economies and many of the economic indicators, but they're strong, obviously, in oil and gas, because people can see if this issue is not settled in the Middle East with Iran, then the price of oil and gas is going to continue to go up. Energy companies, therefore, not just the companies themselves, but exploration, anything to do with energy, that drives that overall market index up. And we're seeing that certainly in Canada, even in the EU on their missile defense contracts. These are companies that have major, excuse me while I fix this, major contracts for defense spending. And of course, as a war goes on, their needs, and we're hearing about the shortage of missiles alone, but other technologies that are involved in this modern age of warfare, those company stocks will go up, and so that will pull the market up overall. Well, something that's really got some people alarmed and others not. The U.S. through President Trump and their Secretary of Health have given new guidance relative to vaccinations for children. They're not saying don't vax kids. They're saying the vaccinations should be separated out. There's a large vaccination conglomeration, the MMR vaccination. And what they are saying is, because of some cautions, is they should be separating out. Your doctors will tell you what the guidance is. You can decide if you want to accept it. But instead of giving the one large one, which some tests are indicated there could be some complications with some of those vaccinations, break it out to the specific ones you need. The only argument really against that, some doctors are upset because they say, moms or dads are busy and they should just get all these shots at once in one larger shot. And the people coming out on the other side of that, on the health science side, are saying, you're far better to take these shots separately if that's where the area is than worry about what it's going to do to your schedule on a given day. Anyway, we'll watch that debate continue to go, but a very clear advisory given there from the administration in the U.S. Well, New York Magazine is talking now, is describing New York City as Habibi City, because of the purported huge increase in influence of the Muslim community there, and of course a Muslim mayor who leans quite honestly towards communism. They say it's changing the face of New York, and so it's being called more and more, being referred to as Habibi City. You'll see if that will continue on. We don't know. But also in New York City, as you know, that with the trial of Luigi Mangione, this is the nut bar who assassinated in cold blood the CEO of a health insurance firm. And it's been very alarming wherever you are on the issue of health insurance, very alarming to see all around the U.S. ever since this cold-blooded murder took place on the streets of New York. The fan clubs going up for this Luigi Mangione guy. He is a young guy. He is good looking. The women's clubs are flocking to him. And the social media clubs are saying, yes, he did the right thing. He murdered in cold blood a husband, a father of young kids, because that father happened to also be the CEO of a health insurance company, and is gone so insane now that as the trial is coming out, the judge has ordered that all the jurors must remain anonymous, because so many death threats are coming in towards the jurors saying that they better rule to let Mangione off. It's gotten insane, folks. A lot of it is because of the rhetoric you hear in media from the left, suggesting that violence is the way to go, and that somebody who has aggrieved you in some way, if they are from the right or conservatives, they actually should be killed. So very concerning seeing the face and the thinking of New York, and actually more broadly around the country, changing. There are some senators who are asking and demanding, actually, that at the upcoming memorial, it takes place every September 11, the 9/11 memorials following the attack, the Muslim Muslim ISIS attack on the Twin Towers that took place. And they are saying that the mayor of New York should not be allowed to go, since he is such a promoter of all things Islamic, and has his past comments relative to the destruction of the Twin Towers that day, and over 3,000 people being killed. So quite a situation where we'll see what happens with that. But the mayor's saying he should be banned. The senator's saying the mayor of New York, Mondami, should be banned from attending that ceremony. You're going to be hearing a little more. You may be hearing the name Jason Arday. Arday is all one word, no relation to me. This is a very famous, very well-known professor out of Cambridge, black from UK. He's got a beautiful accent and the long dreadnoughts and everything else. And for quite a number of years, he's made quite a name for himself with his constant, nonstop, voluminous lectures, we'll call them, on anything always promoting and talking about racism and suggesting that people who can't get ahead in society, especially if they are black, it's because of racism. And he's made quite a name for himself, plus being a professor from Cambridge. And some things being discovered about him now, which has resulted in him losing after a long period of time of people saying he should lose it. First of all, there was his position at Cambridge. Um, this Mr. Arday claimed for years that he was autistic. I'm not questioning that. Said that he was mute. He couldn't even speak until around almost 10 years old. He couldn't even speak. He couldn't read at all till he was late in high school. And he'd had all kinds of just incredible physical challenges and should have been dead and everything else. And he had quite a story. And then even that he had the ability to go to university and apparently do as well as he did. And that's what's in question, because one thing that even the left doesn't like is plagiarism. That's when you're doing your PhD and you steal, you just copy what other people have said and you pretend that they are your ideas. That is sin number one, as it probably should be, in the academic community. And it was found that he did multiple cases of plagiarism, just straight copying from the words of others and the research of others, not even acknowledging it. And he's finally there was sufficient outcry in the academic community. First, they weren't going to do anything, but then they realized this couldn't just be let go. He was using, one of the things he used as an excuse was that since he is autistic, one of the things people who are severely autistic do is they mimic. You know, they hear somebody say something, so they say the same word. And he did all of his copying and lying about plagiarism because of mimicry, which is a condition for autistic people. And finally, it's just been so egregious, along with many other claims he made about his life, now being found to be not quite as he said. He has lost his position there. He continues to say that this is racist in his teachings. Basically, he's of the school of thought that no black person in the world has a chance at all because of racism, and that continues to these days. So that's the name that you're going to be hearing from Professor Arday. You'll be hearing no longer Professor, and his victim narrative, which has really had such a grip generationally in academia and then to the students themselves. Another very disturbing case that's unfolding in Massachusetts, and you're going to see more and more of it now. It's getting lots of attention. Lindsay Clancy, the mother who murdered her three children, being accused of murdering, her three children, strangling them to death and using other methods to basically strangling them to death. And she's on trial. And what's coming out is that, yes, she was definitely suffering from all kinds of mental health issues, and she was continually going to psychiatrists. And partly at issue in the court cases is, did the drugs that she was being given, and sometimes doctors giving, the psychiatrist giving one drug that shouldn't have been given, and then another psychiatrist giving another drug, and she's taking on the other one, but just the use of drugs and pharmaceuticals to treat mental health, was that actually the clear factor in her then murdering her three kids? So that, in fact, is going to be on trial. Well, the Hill magazine, the Hill publication, posting interesting article about celebrities this year coming up to the elections being strangely silent, other than a few keep speaking out. But celebrities more and more from Hollywood are staying silent. And some of them, when they're being asked about this, like of course, The Rock himself being asked about this, Paris Hilton being asked, and more of the celebrities saying they're just going to play it cool. They learned their lesson when they came out so strong in the last presidential elections against Trump, and then finding so much of their fan base was upset with them, and so Hollywood staying a lot quieter. Brad Pitt was just in a discussion here, and the reason I raise this, we just heard about mental health issues and the assignment of drugs by psychiatrists. Of course, his second marriage to Evangeline Jolie broke up, and there were some pretty serious accusations. I'm not going to get into all of that, but drinking was definitely a factor. And so he definitely got on the wagon for quite a while and maintained sobriety to get a hold of his significant drinking problem. And now he's telling people he's actually back on, he's not saying he's a drunk, but he's back on alcohol, and not just one glass of wine from time to time, but he'll take three or a few glasses of wine at a time, and he figures that's in control. I'm just going to look, that's his choice, that's for him to do. But having worked with rehabilitation and drug and alcohol related situations for a good part of my life, I can just say if you are trying to stay completely dry in terms of alcohol, you know what? Stay with that. You actually, because for so many people, just one sip is enough to send them spiraling backward. Same with drugs. So I would say ignore what Brad Pitt is saying. If that's working for him, that's fine. But stay on the wagon, folks. Stay on the wagon. It's a lot safer way to go. Wanted to interject that there. The Canadian consumer uh, numbers of Canadian consumers going insolvent. That means going bankrupt. This is actually claiming bankruptcy. This isn't businesses, this is consumers. Canadian consumers claiming bankruptcy in the second quarter of this year. It's up again, up 13%, 37,000 Canadians claiming personal bankruptcy. That's the highest it's been since 2009. So when we hear our prime minister and the Liberal government talking about how wonderful the economy is doing, uh, basic personal bankruptcies continuing to go up on quite a rapid rate. That's something needed to be looked at. I'm kind of embarrassed about this next story. 60,000 Canadians apparently have signed a petition to demand that the U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hegstra, who I've met, and he's a very decent guy, I get along with him well, they want him recalled to the United States. 60,000 Canadians, obviously extreme left wingers. It's just embarrassing. I find it a bit humiliating as a Canadian that is this how thin our skin is? That ambassadors, I mean, through the centuries, for all time, it's always been known that the ambassador coming from a particular country in your country will always reflect whatever the president or the king or the queen of that country is, whatever their positions are, who sent them there. And, these Canadians, I speak as a Canadian, these wimps, it's just humiliating. They go whining and crying and saying, recall him, take him home. So what do you think? The next ambassador that would be appointed to Canada would come out anti-Trump? Give your heads a shake. And I'll say to Ambassador Hegstra, all of the policies that you and I don't agree on, and trade policies especially, and tariff. But listen, I'm just saying to you, I'm embarrassed as a Canadian that I've got apparently 60,000 whining Canadians running around sniveling. So stick with it, Ambassador. I think you're doing a fine job, and you stick to your guns, and it's fun debating with you, and it's fun also agreeing with you on stuff. So that's my little bit there about those whining Canadians. In Quebec, it's going to be getting interesting because October 5th is going to be a provincial election. Now, this is 2 weeks before the referendum in Alberta. There's going to be a referendum. A number of questions are being asked to Albertans on a poll, and one of those has to do with should Alberta be talking or thinking about starting discussions about separating from Canada. And that's going to be right at the time, just 2 weeks earlier, you're going to see the election in Quebec. And right now, it's the Separatist Party in Quebec right now that's leading. They're at 20% in the polls. The the party that's in government, the Coalition Avenir Quebec, Christine Frechette is the leader. Francois Legault stepped down from that party not that long ago. They have really dropped in the polls. Actually, the Liberals are closer to the Separatists right now. It's the PQ party, as they call it, at 30%. The Liberals are 27%, Conservatives at 13%. I'm just saying also, Conservatives could be a bit of a wild card in Quebec. Eric Duhem is the leader of the Conservative Party in Quebec. He's a friend of mine. He used to work for me. Great guy. So don't count him out in terms of taking more of the vote. We'll see what happens there. And it's going to be interesting because Albertans who will be voting on this very issue 2 weeks after the election, I predict what we're going to be seeing is federal ministers anytime between now and October going in increasing numbers into Quebec and giving them all kinds of beautiful and wonderful things they want so that they will vote for the Quebec Liberal Party there, the provincial party. And that's going to be quite a sight if that's wide open and blatant as it usually is, the dumping of billions of dollars into Quebec by the federal government. That is definitely going to have an effect on the Alberta election. The people who are watching, and the leader of the Separatist Party in Quebec is saying, yes, separation is still front and center. And of course, he's reassuring people. He's saying well, they're still concerned about healthcare and education and the economy and all that. But he sent out a special message, especially to English Canadian Quebecers, saying nothing to worry about here. Relax. So interesting to watch that go. Talking about Montreal, we just reported yesterday that the case of Sean Foyt, this was the Sean Foyt organization, a Christian organization. He is a worship singer. He holds concerts all around the world. And you remember he got canceled. The Quebec government canceled his concert in Montreal on religious grounds. That's how insane that was. They did take that to court, and he won the case. And the court said that the judiciary system in Quebec and Montreal did not have the right to shut him down. Now, Mr. Foyt and his team is also suing the city of Moncton, who also shut them down after they were booked. And some people saying, well, they're a Christian organization, maybe they shouldn't raise a fuss and do this. You can go all the way back 2,000 years, and you always see there are times when the Christian community has to stand up and speak for its rights. You can read in the book of Acts where the Apostle Paul was wrongly arrested by the government, and he was actually treated very poorly. And then when he reminded them that he was, in fact, a Roman citizen, they let him out. They said, sorry, we shouldn't have done this. But he made it clear to all the Christians at that time in Philippi, said, no, if this injustice has been done, then you do need to stand up for injustice. And so Sean Foyt and his crew are taking to court the city of Moncton on that one. Kind of an embarrassing but funny scene, a little, you talk about what can happen between countries. There's been an apology coming from the Prime Minister of Australia, Prime Minister Albanese, and he was apologizing because when there was a recent visit from the Prime Minister of Japan, that's Sanae Takachi, and she's doing a great job there, she brought as a gift special melons from Japan, grown only in Japan, a real delicacy. Sometime later, not too long ago, when the Prime Minister of Australia was doing a live media show. Let's see, I got to handle this delicately. He talked about melons. And as you know, melons can have a couple of meanings. And that got a little bit carried away. And he has had to, and he was talking about the Prime Minister bringing the melons and the Prime Minister's melons, etc. I'm going to let your imagination run with it. He has apologized there, and he wasn't attacking either the Prime Minister or Japan's wonderful melons. So you never know where a diplomatic fire up or flare up is going to happen. Bloomberg is reporting that more and more people under 18 are taking GLP-1 drugs. That's for lack of a better title. One of the names of those is Ozempic. Taking them in huge numbers, even when they don't really need them, when there's no health need for them. There's no apparent issue related to their weight. And they're the under 18 crowd. They call it Zemp, and it's big in that community and that age group, apparently, and doctors sharing some concerns about kids at that age being so focused and so intense on taking these GLP-1 drugs, and some concern about that. Well, if you're a parent or a grandparent and you hear your kids talking about LARPing is basically when you do something, but you only do it because not so much not the activity, but you only do it because you want attention. Let's say you went hiking with some friends, but the real intent and the whole time, all you did the whole hike long was take pictures of yourself to post as if you were a genuine hiker, but you're not, but you want to be seen doing it. That's called LARPing. Okay, folks, there you go for LARPing. There's your new word for the days. And on the dating scene internationally, in the Asian community, we're thinking especially in Korea, but this comes into the U.S. now. women looking for doctors or lawyers or people of that type of renown, celebrities. There's been a real move, and they're seeing it significantly in South Korea, where for your best arm candy or armware, whichever guy you're looking for, AI techies are really coming into their own as being seen as the cool ones, the sexy ones, not so much the lawyers or the business guys or the big CEOs. Samsung, as a matter of fact, has a dating community within their entire organization. So you techies, it paid off. You smart guys, you engineering wonders. I guess the girls are coming for you. Interesting story coming out of there. And tonight, folks, apparently, almost wherever you are in North America, they're calling it, it's going to be Meteor Christmas. Meteor Christmas, not more meat, but the meteors in the sky. Apparently, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, the Perseid comet grouping and others, anywhere from 10:30 to midnight, and just go on chat or Google or whatever you do, check what part of the sky. But they say if you're like those meteors, now is the time more than any to see the amazing creation of God in place flying through the sky. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you tomorrow.